Hey there, hi there, hello there. I am like the king of muting myself. Welcome to Play for Time. This is the show where we talk about I don't remember. What the hell is this show about?
Staying engaged with life as you age. And in this episode, we're going to talk about things that we didn't appreciate when we were younger, but that we very much appreciate now, what's changed, and why it's important to appreciate and savor the little things.
I love this episode. This is going to be our best episode of the year. I think this is top two. Um, I think I have so much that I appreciate as time has gone on. I feel like it's that scene in The Rock where they're talking about the bulls up on the hill looking at all the cows down in the field. I feel like it is one of those one must go really slow and appreciate a lot of things in life. I am curious though, what brought this topic to mind? This is a you topic. How did we come to here?
They say youth is wasted on the wrong people. I started thinking about, gosh, when I was younger, I just sort of blew past all these, what I would consider interesting historic buildings, or like when I'd go to pretty places, I didn't really stop to appreciate them. I was just very focused on like getting where I was going and doing what I was doing. And you develop this sort of tunnel vision, which might be necessary to your success when you're younger. I don't know. But like when I was getting my law degree and stuff, I was very much like blinders on, straight ahead, work, work, work. This is the whole universe. And you miss out on some things. So I think as you get older and you start to value time more, I don't know if it's universal, but I imagine that, when you're like, oh, okay, we're in the last half versus the first half. So you start thinking a little differently about time and appreciating more what you have, I guess, instead of just trying to rush through it to get to something else.
As you said that, one of the things I started thinking almost immediately was um, for whatever reason, especially when we're younger, we are always where we aren't. Like my parents would take me to Battleship Cove. There are these amazing United States military battleships that you can walk through and look at stuff and play with the knobs and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to be somewhere else. Like I was in Star Wars in my head or whatever I was. Like you're never where you are. Like you're never just taking in whatever it is. And sometimes it's boring as heck and you can't help it, especially when you're a kid. Like, you're hey, we're waiting for the dentist is not a cool place to be. Although my dentist was a safari hunter before that was not cool, and he happened to have cool animal heads all over his walls. And they were already dead. I could feel sorry for them later, but my gosh, I could have like looked at lots of cool creatures. I guess I didn't appreciate it then, and it'd be a little hard for me to appreciate it now for some ethical reasons. But I definitely think where we are is a really strong topic. Did that bring anything to mind?
Well, Annette says appreciating being here with you and your audience today. So thank you so much. Although we would say the community we have the privilege to serve, because we're actually not. We don't consider you our audience. You are anything. You're people we get to talk to every so often, and we appreciate you. So yeah, I think it's interesting now having kids of my own to talk to them about what they remember about the experiences that we had. So the places I took them and the things that we saw. And it's nearly always like some tiny little thing, like a fight they had, or like, some toy they were mad about that the other one took, or like the food that they didn't like or something. It's never like they don't experience the fullness of it kind of the way that you hope they do. But I think it's probably universal when the kids are small. Now that they are somewhat older, I have taken them places. Like we went to York Minster together and saw the stained glass there, and just all the history in the building and the artistry of the monuments set up there and stuff like that. And they really enjoyed that. And I think being older and being a little more cooked, I guess, like they're teenagers, right? But being a little more developed and having their sense of artistic taste and stuff developed helps them to appreciate these experiences more in a way that they just didn't have a context for it yet when they were little, I think.
I was also thinking when you said that education. Uh, I was a very reluctant student. I had a lot of situations where my creativity was not being appreciated, and I sort of started scuffing against the system as far back as like fifth grade. So whatever age you are when you're in fifth grade. Leslie and I think, met in sixth grade or knew each other better in sixth grade, but I think her name was Mrs. Birch. And my mom liked to call her Mrs. Bitch. And that is because she did not appreciate my cleverness. And I would say that I don't think I appreciated what I could get out of education because I don't think I had there was a different time, right? Like we couldn't ask questions and say, "Hey, could you guide me in this kind of pursuit?" And I think we would have had a much better experience with learning. My dad asked a question, and I don't know how that one connects. Did they still have their teeth?
Did the kids when we went? Yeah, I mean, they had lost their baby teeth. Some of them, most I forget. I also forget what age they are when they like lose most of them. But they it was a mix. Let's say it was a mix of baby teeth and big baby teeth, like because they're my babies still even now. But I mean, old enough to appreciate that we were going somewhere and doing something. And the things that I like to do tend to focus on stories. So it's like you're touring a historic place and there's some boring stuff to them. I mean, I would imagine about like the building itself or whatever, but there's plenty more stories about the people who lived there and the things they did and what happened to them. And those I think at least landed. So maybe not the place. They sometimes get muddled about like where exactly it was and stuff, but they remember going and hearing cool stories, which I feel like is nice.
Leslie reminds me or confirms my information. Yes, it was sixth grade. And yes, education was definitely much different. Uh, I remember Mrs. Matheson, who taught me that horses sweat, men perspire, and ladies glow. That was sixth grade. The animal heads, I didn't even know where he was. Did they still have their teeth? Was a very abstract question, but I think it's probably time lapse of the live feed versus not in that case. Um, do you think, as far as things that we appreciate differently, we're so much more aware of time, right? Like time is a lot more scarce. When you're a kid, you have all the time in the world. You have too much time, all the time. That song by Styx only exists in your childhood. So is time part of this? Time feels like the unifying element in a lot of it.
So how we experience time is so different. And we've talked about this before too. So when you're little, every experience is new. And so your days sort of stretch out because they're filled with fascinating first time experiences. Then you start to have those experiences over and over and over again, like your days of school. And pretty soon it starts to feel like the months and the years. And like it's just, they all sort of blend together because they're so similar. So, I mean, that's definitely part of it. So at this point, we've had so many days that are so like so many other days that if you let it, they'll fly by because your brain is like, I can't with this. We're going to just compress this into like one continuous day because they're all the same. So you have to make the effort to step out of the sameness and do something different to wake your brain up and be like, hey, this is an experience and I want to capture it like in real time, kind of, and don't just like fast forward through it. And it will. And I know this because I've done this. I do this all the time. So we have adventures as living here versus living where I was living in the South. It's a lot easier to have these like micro adventures because there are more things within driving distance that are different and interesting. So I mean, like, they're not all going to be winners, but even if it's not a terrific experience, even if it turns out not to be that interesting, it is different. And different is what is required, I think, to sort of make your brain slow down and appreciate life again. What do you think?
I think you're right. I think there's a couple things that connect to this though. And first off, one of the things I was going to do is kind of grab the comment. So Leslie says, I loved her, Mrs. Matheson. She used to stress the importance of grammar. Did not want to hear, I ain't got no any. My Mrs. Matheson grammar story, besides the one I gave, was she had a British exchange student, and the kid came over and she said, "Hey, I'm going to make hamburgers, and we'll have like hamburgers and chips. Chips in Britain is French fries. Chips in the U.S. are crisps." And the kid was very crestfallen when they saw those crappy little potato chips on the plate. Jackie says, "Just showed up at the right time. Dad jokes time." And Dad says, "Yep, could hardly wait to be able to drive and then to get out of school." So yeah, I mean, your thought about we've had so many versions of the same day, I think that that hit. Like I was like, ugh, you're sure right. But I also, there weren't so many duties on our time, right? There wasn't so much required of us. People weren't like waiting anxiously for us to do XYZ thing. I mean, the work is endless amounts of that. I have meetings when I don't want to have meetings, any of that stuff. And I think that it's so strange to think about, when we were young versus now, because we could wander off and do f all day if we wanted, and now if we had that ability, we'd be like, yes, please. That's why staycations are way more interesting than let's go to the park or something like that. Are there any other categories? Like, I was thinking, foods that we appreciate differently, things and quirks that people did that we used to think were annoying or terrible that we like now. What comes to mind for you?
I imagine that it's pretty universal to discover later in life that you appreciate people you knew more than you did at the time. Like parents come to mind. So like you may not appreciate your parents and everything they managed to do for you at the time because you're very focused on that tunnel vision of getting yourself to where you want to go. But I have over time come to appreciate my parents more. Like they had their quirks and stuff because they're human and they had, difficulties in their life and whatever. So you sort of view it through the lens of experience, especially if you yourself became a parent and you have more grace kind of in looking back on the experience. So I appreciate my parents more. I appreciate my husband's parents more, stuff like that. And the experiences that we had together, I sometimes appreciate more. So it's partly people, I think. And looking back, I look at my mentors who I valued and respected, obviously, even at the time, but it's I ascribe more value to the things they did for me and the risks they took for me and the things they did to help me than I did, I think, when I was young. Because when you're young, you sort of feel like, well, yeah, obviously, like, I'm young. You old people are supposed to help me. But now with the benefit experience, I've realized that it was actually quite a lot that other people sacrificed for me and my brothers and sisters and that sort of stuff. Brother and sister.
Many sisters, all of your sisters. Joanne says, when I was young in the 1960s, suburbs were seen as safer. No play date appointments, just go outside until it gets dark and it's dinner time. Absolutely. And when the light came on, that's when you had to come home. That was the rule. Oops. Leslie says, I never used to try different foods when I was young, but as an adult, that's changed, and I'm much more open to new foods and flavors and finding out how some foods actually are. When we were talking about people, the difference between people when they're older and people when they're not, I was looking up a quote, which is, when I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years. And it's attributed to Mark Twain, but oh my gosh, what a real sentiment, don't you think?
Yeah, like I said, I think we appreciate people more the older we get. And there are huge categories of wisdom, if you want to call it that I think are being rapidly lost to the ages. So there were, like, for example, thrift is like a quality you don't see as much anymore because it hasn't been necessary. We have this like disposable approach to things. We buy things, oh, it doesn't work, or it broke in 6 months, you throw it away, you get another one. That wasn't the case growing up. You had to make do with what you had, fix things, and things were better quality, frankly. So they were made, to last. And so I think a lot of things about how we live have changed, and we're kind of losing some of the qualities and the wisdom that came with those experiences, like the sacrifices people had to make, say our grandparents when they went through the depression, or when they fought wars. It's like they brought back wisdom and experience that we at this point can't always relate to. So I think if you can keep multi-generational relationships going, there is benefit to that, even if the kids right now seem really bored by these kinds of stories and stuff or advice. They, in their later years, may come to appreciate it the way I've come to appreciate my parents and other relatives' advice. I don't know. What about you?
No, I think for sure. I think for sure. Leslie points out, I loved growing up in a residential neighborhood. Summer days, we would jump on our bikes and disappear for the day. I was just thinking about that when I read Leslie's comment, because of all the places I lived, anywhere so far in all of New England, because I only lived in New England my whole life, 19 and a half Kendall Street. So when you hear an address in America anyway, and you hear and a half, that is a small apartment. And I don't remember that because I was so little that it was the right size apartment. And it was on Sand Hill, a lot of French relatives around, French, Franco-American, and Quebecois. And that was where I liked to do all my bicycling and fort making and up and down the hills. And I think that that sense of neighborhood has gone. Like, think of some of the places you've lived in the last little while where it was really an obliterated neighborhood. There was not a go down the street kind of feeling to it. And, uh, Joanne's comment here makes me think of one of those, let's put you back to bed, Grandpa. My Nana had her umbrella repaired rather than replacing it, right? Like, that's just foreign to the way we do our things now. So I think it's crazy. I think I wonder this though. I wonder with the advent of how fast all this AI technology stuff is going, how even faster than any other tech it seems to be going. I wonder if we're going to have a pushback. I wonder if we're going to want to retreat. I have been for years doing paper journaling. I've been doing photography as meditation. I wonder if we're going to invest more and more time to appreciate slow in a way that we did it before. What do you think?
I'm waiting for us to become like the next generation, like Star Trek, the next generation. And they figured out stuff. And we're like, okay, we can now meet through technology the basic needs of like every being in this galaxy or whatever. Now you can think about what you'd like to do with the time you have, what you want to do, how you want to spend your life that will make it meaningful for you, whether you join Starfleet or whether you like stay on a little colony and develop new areas or whether you apprentice or something to do something cool. So, I mean, I would love that. And we're obviously not there yet. I think we could be, like, we could get there. And that makes me think, what is, assuming you had like some kind of universal basic income or something, what would be the next thing? There are things AI can replace and automate and facilitate, and there are things it cannot. So you can watch YouTube videos all you want, and you can ask AI how to make, I don't know, a workbench all you want, but doing it is a different thing. So I think it would be nice if we had the time and the I don't say bandwidth, but that's not like a human term, but you know what I mean, the resource, the energy and the reserves and the time to focus on how to do things we want to do. Like if you want to write, you have to write and you have to do it yourself and you have to craft and recraft and hone your language till you get really good at expressing yourself your own unique way. So take the time to do that. You kind of don't have it if you're just trying to pump out as much like marketing stuff as you possibly can in this, and that's great. Like we have tools that could do that. That's cool. They get the job done, box checked. But if you really want to become an artist or a craftsman, I would love for us to have the basics handled and then spend our time pursuing what we want to pursue, whatever that is. I think kindness also, not to go back to Ariel Helvetica from the Backpack Show, who I laughed at, not because she said kindness belonged in the backpack, but for other unrelated reasons. I've come to appreciate kindness. I think when we're so busy trying to survive, which like most people are in like survival mode right now, I would say from the pandemic completely, like till today, because if it's not the pandemic, it's the ramifications from it, or now it's AI. Like we have all these existential threats. And I think kindness has become less common and I value it that much more. I don't know what you think, but I think so. Spending life how you want to spend it and then treating other people with some kindness. I feel like those two things would change the game, like for us.
My dad says I use AI every day, and as a result, I'm improving my health and I'm getting mundane choirs done faster. So I'm just messing. We know what he means. I think that there's a lot of application, and what he's saying though is interesting because you can use this in a very sane way to afford yourself better time, to save lots of problems. I mean, Dad was scanning a whole bunch of documents, converting them into this other form and into this other form. And I said, why don't you take a photo and ask GPT to turn it into a document? He went, oh. and it worked. And I only knew that because I was in a hotel room transcribing a whole bunch of notes other executives had written by hand. And I went, wait a minute. And even one of our guys at the time, Alex, utterly illegible handwriting. Clearly must have been a surgeon in another career. And I just handed it to ChatGPT and it was like, I totally know what you're talking about. And it's, it worked out great. I think you're right. And I think it goes back to appreciating time though, right? It's your point about craftsmanship. When we go and we see a handcrafted thing, like on our little adventures, when we go and see something handcrafted, we go, oh, that's great. I'm also more and more and more enamored by singular things, something that hasn't been mass produced. I think a one of is a will be an important thing going forward. And I think that's something I appreciate differently because as the everything in the world has become ubiquitous and you can have kind of everything, I want the things that you can't have from everybody. My mom made me these beads. I will not be getting another pair of beads that my mom made me unless I find them when I clean some stuff up.
I went recently to Dublin to hang out with my daughter and to hang out with Chloe Forbes Kinlan. Woo, hey, Chloe. One of the things Chloe and I got to do, which my kids slept through because teenagers, was to go and see the Book of Kells. So talking about things that there's only one of. It was written 800 years ago by monks, handwritten, the Gospels on this. What is that stuff? It's like animal skin. And so this is the only one there is. And so you can see reproductions and stuff like that blown up so you can appreciate the artistry with which the monks wrote the words. But to see the actual book, you cannot touch it and you cannot photograph it. But to see it was really something. And like you said, there's one and that's it. That was definitely a moving experience, or at least I found it to be so. Oh, we get a comment. Book of Kells, awesome. Vellum, that's it, Jackie. Thanks. Vellum.
Yeah.
Is a reproduction of the Book of Kells, but there's only one.
Wow. Look at all those different people who just jump right in. Well, I know what you mean. Every time I hear Book of Kells, I used to play this video game called Destiny. One of the bad guys was the Kell of Kells. The word meant sort of like kings in the game. And parchment is the cheap stuff, and vellum is the expensive stuff. They did vellum from calf skin because, of course, they did. It is noteworthy to me. It is noteworthy that those one of ones like that are very rarity is one thing, but you know what else can be like that too that one might appreciate as we get older is experiences like that. Like it would be so much more fun to be in a place with a person that the only time it'll happen is once. I think that's going to be a thing. Like people who have concerts and make you put your phone in a bag or whatever. I think there's going to be more of that going forward. And I think there should be more of that going forward.
I think, yeah, the memories that stand out to me are the ones that were singular. So by which I mean that only going to happen one time and that's it. So I went to Montenegro, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago for an event, and they took us out on the Bay of Cotter. And there was like 1,000-year-old church on a little island, and you could get off the boat if you wanted to and swim in the water there. And the water in the Bay of Cotter was like, it was so deep and so blue. Like I hadn't seen that color blue. And it's so deep you could bring like a cruise ship in there. So I mean, basically you feel really small in the middle of this great big bay. And I'll never forget the feeling because the water was cold. It was dark and this like azure color, and you could see this incredibly old church. I mean, that's like a sensory experience, which also makes it stickier, but also that one day will never happen again. So I agree. I think experiences, and I think also research bears this out that younger generations are paying for experiences and they value experiences more than they value things. They don't have the same level of collections that like Gen X people did, like comic books and toys and different kinds. They have some collectibles, but that like as a generation, I think they collect less than other folks because they're paying for experiences. So that would definitely be a smart place to put your business hat on and put some thought towards how to provide experiences for people that are singular.
just to keep going, Kells, because Jackie is alive with Kells. Have you seen the animated one? It's lovely. The Secret of Kells and the art is stunning. Um, I was thinking about all the singular times in my life that were my favorites. So when you were talking about that in the church and all that, I could visualize it so well. Like I don't know it. I just in my head I could see that being an incredible day. Um, Similarly, like incredible meals, right? Well, like my favorite meal I ever had was at Cape Cod, and it was a one of a time experience, and it was a beautiful moment, and I will go to my grave with that. The other one that I think of is I was with a bunch of social media idiots in Cancun, and there was this perfect day where we went out to this. There was like a really party side of the island, and there was a not party side of the island. We went to the not party, and I swam around and did snorkeling. And I'm not. Uh, I put on my own sunblock, and evidently did not do a great job on my back. So I had these like cool tiger stripes because I'm Irish. And but beyond that, that's the complaint. I had the most amazing day, just very soothing, face down, watching sea life and all that kind of thing. These guys were in the water swimming around us, but like collected up some lobsters and stuff and made a nice little fish fry right on the beach. Now I don't know if they drove to like Stop and Shop and bought a bunch of lobsters and threw them in behind the rocks, but it felt magical. And I can tell you that the experience of all that is just a wonderful, like those moments that you'll never get back kind of a thing. And I think collecting moments is a thing. People say it, but to your point about putting the business hat on, how do you think people will be able to capitalize on that in a business way?
Events and experiences, it's easy. So one marketing event, if I may, that I think does an excellent job at creating these kinds of sticky emotional experiences is the Marketing Profs B2B Forum. Now, I don't work for them anymore. I haven't worked for them for 4 years, but they are the best in the business that I've ever experienced. So they have given thought to what the attendee experiences is like for someone who's coming with other coworkers or people who are coming for the first time on their own, and they make spaces and create opportunities for people to bond over and to find the things that they share in common and to feel the energy that's like you belong, you're welcome here, welcome home, that kind of stuff. And it works. So, I mean, the event space, there's no one better. So you could look at the kind of shenanigans they put together and the experiences they plan, bring that to most any event in most any category, and you make it something really special, not just the best industry knowledge that's tightly targeted to be relevant to a specific group, but around that, the generalized human experiences, I think is going to be so important. So you can monetize that by making your event more emotionally resonant, I guess, if that makes sense.
My old boss, Jeff Pulver, when he ran the Vaughn events way back in the day, he would charge $2,500 a ticket for this event, which all these telco people would pay because they weren't paying it; their bosses were paying it. It was company money, so they were really happy. So Jeff says, "I charge 2,500. I try to spend almost $2,000 a head on experiences for them." So he'd buy like the Counting Crows, or he'd throw this incredible food spread and all that. And so people would come back year after year after year saying that was the most amazing thing that ever happened. Joanne says, valuing the experience brought Steve Jobs to mind because he wanted experience within the device. So now we expand back into the real world with that value. And what's interesting about that, I had this crazy conversation about way too many things with this guy, Mark Risen Hopkins, who is working on implementing AI stuff inside of robots. I said, "Oh, so Skynet is you. You're making the T-800." And he says, "Kind of." And but I had just seen this video, and this kind of connected to that, where in which this guy from Microsoft said, "We are going to so soon be able to talk at most everything. Like we're going to be able to say to the vending machine, what's the newest thing that got put in you?" And it'll be like, "Oh, these Diet Cokes," or whatever, right? Like things and devices and systems will have these conversational interfaces. And on the one hand, I thought that's really cool. And on the other hand, I thought, I made this drink in my kitchen, and I'm pretty happy that I did that. It's a very singular drink, so uh, I don't, I don't know. I think there's going to be this tension. Do you?
Well, First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming on this ride with us because it feels a lot like when your grandparents want to tell you something. That's what this whole show has turned into. So, thanks for hanging in there with us. Second of all, there are things that we don't want to do that we would love for AI to do for us. And there's plenty of things that we don't want that. Like we want to be able to do for ourselves because we do them because we like them. There's plenty of people who do their own oil changes because they enjoy them. I'm not one of those people, but I understand it. There's people who love cooking and there's people who don't. So, like I keep saying, if we use technology to enable the things we don't want to do because they're boring and repetitive, then one hopes you have more like energy to invest in the things that make life worth living for you, that make it enjoyable for you, whatever that is. No, I'm not.
Speaking of robots, Jackie says, we have robots at work, and one of them went crazy and ran over a fertilizer shed yesterday. True story. It's like living in the future. That is Kookaburg. I think we got to get out of here. Any famous last words from?
Yeah, I think that fertilizer shed started it.
I like that. Hey, we're going to do our year end thing. I'll probably do it on this platform, I guess, but we do our My Three Words every single year. We've done it on every platform I've ever done. When Rob and I were running Owner Media together, we did it there. We did it last year, I think, on our channel on Play for Time or Backpack Show or whatever show I was running that week. Dad says I don't want to chop down a tree. Okay, I agree with you. I think that that'll probably be our next show. Is the one for My Three Words, and that is to plan your whole year out for 2026 and reflect on how you did in 2025. We do beverages and that sort of thing. We tend to do it nighttime, East Coast and West Coast US nighttime, so we can start to plan for that. Hey, as a preview to that, Kerry, before we wrap up for the day, how do you think you did with your 3 words for 2025? Just a preview.
Oh boy. Let's see. So I had them on my phone for the entire year and I did look at them, but then I replaced them with my kid, like a picture of my kid. So I think they were the right words for this year. And they helped me through some like tricky times, which I knew times were going to be like things would shift. I don't think like everybody else, I didn't realize like how much. So they turned out to be the perfect words, like anchor, tack, and wayfinder. It was my way of focusing on like, all right, you need to hold to what's important, the things you value the most, and you need to be prepared to make progress forward in kind of a non-linear way, which has happened. And wayfinder was like you're going to have to feel your way forward because there isn't a map for this. And so all those things have been more relevant than I could have realized when I chose them last year. So I feel good about them. I haven't given any thought to what the new ones will be, but we have thought about the backpack show and bringing it back. So I think you've mentioned that before, but I am at work planning the first quarter of next year with the help of a team of AI agents, a whole marketing team feeding me some ideas. And I'm going to bring back my own brand of magic. I'm looking forward to it, to where I just like dream up the kind of person that I might want to talk to. And now I just have like an AI researcher. I can go, hey, go find me some people that fit this category. Like find me more Irish sheep farmers that love YouTube or whatever, and I'll be able to do it. So I don't know. I think the words I chose worked better than I could have imagined. I don't know what I'm going to be planning for next year. I have to give it some thought, but I've been putting my creative juices into the backpack show relaunch.
That's pretty exciting. And I always like that we have both our methods and that they differ, but we find our way there because you do all this really well thought out, really researched, lots of topic based, how do I find a sheep farmer? And I go and I thirst on actors and mostly try to get celebrities, minor celebrities, to say yes to coming on our show so that we can laugh and upset the balance. So I think I'm going to start looking around for who. I mean, I just saw that Sean from Hot Ones just got Matthew McConaughey on his show, so I got to up my bar a little. Michael Irby was good. Sir Mix-a-Lot's great. Wonder who else I can go after. Maybe Mr. Rob Van Winkle. I think that might be good. You know who else though?